who's got a one of these gastropods, kind of the nice, creamy, twirly type? Okay, there's a bunch of them over here and one over here. Okay, well, these are Madagascar. Oh, 1.1 million miles above sea level. They're supposed to be, these particular ones are supposed to be along the beaches and seashores and things. What are they doing a mile above ground? And what are they doing? Looking exactly as if you guys have snails in your gardens? Do they look good like that? Pretty much. What happened? He's supposed to be 500 million years old and better. If evolution were true, he'd have, who knows, how many little squirrels, whatever would be more efficient. But he doesn't, he looks exactly the same. And now we get to my favorite, one of my favorites, the novelwhite. And when you have the young novelwhites, they raise them at Monterey Beach or Monterey Aquarium now, they kind of look like little shrimpies. But they come together like this, and they end up creating a shell that has chambers within it. And so, what I've done here, and I'll show you a really big one. Here's a really big one. When you open up one of these things, they have all these nice little chambers within them. And what's fascinating is, when you look at these, you realize that in the Philippine Sea, these things are floating around at 2,000 feet in the day and about 300 feet at night. The feet, because they're temperature people. They're looking for certain temperatures and where their food is. That's where they go. We thought they were completely extinct, but unfortunately no. And in fact, the chamber system is exactly like the fossils that we find that are supposed to be, well, at least 65 million years old. They look exactly the same number of chambers. Does anybody have a little ammonite? A few of you guys might have one. There you go. Yeah. Here, look at this. So she's got one of these things. Look at this big bad boy. Here's Big Daddy. You know, they actually grow this big still today. That's what they look like on the inside. So, these particular ones that we 0.7 miles above sea. What in the heck is a novelwhite doing at 2.7 miles above sea level? And why does it look exactly the same 65 million years later? Uh-oh, there's a problem here. Your whole fossil. Well, I'll tell you why. Part of this evidence is this. We find it in Psalm 104, which we referenced at the beginning. He established the earth upon the foundation so that it would not cover forever and ever. And you covered it with the deepest with the garment. Yes, we knew that. The waters were standing above the mountains. When did that happen? Blood at the sound of your thunder, they hurried away. The mountains rose and the valleys sank down to the place which you established for them. So we have evidence, you see, in the Himalayas, in fact, all the way up to 5.5 miles above sea level, we have these ammonite. 5 miles in the air, a sea creature is on top of a mountain, the highest mountains we have, right? They're closed. They're still alive, and they're very alive. If that weren't enough, you see vertical sedimentary layers in these mountains. Vertical sedimentary layers. How in the heck did all these layers like this end up like this? They ended up like that because of the continents moving and them striking one another and pushing mountains up, just like his word says. It's exactly what we expected. Just like the Bible says, it was a catastrophic event.
Do not seem to have deposited much material over this dinosaur peninsula. Only a few hundred yards of sediment remain along the margins, and in many places, no deposition is left at all. Deposits thousands of feet thick occur east and west of this temporarily exposed peninsula that extends from Minnesota to New Mexico. Now buried across it are pre-flood wetland plants and animals, including dinosaurs, turtles, frogs, fish, and many birds. Thousands of dinosaur trackways up and down this peninsula, plus similar temporarily exposed low areas on other continents, suggest that dying dinosaurs and other hardy track makers floated, waded, and walked on freshly deposited mud, trying to find safe ground. Next, the massive Zuni megasequence hits. The Absorica and Zuni megasequences are the because the continental plates began to move more quickly from the original Pangea-like supercontinent configuration to where they are today. With oceanic rifting and plate subduction increasing dramatically and the continents traveling apart quickly, the tsunami-like waves began washing across western North America while virtually no sedimentation is occurring in the east. When coming up over the Dinosaur Peninsula, the Zuni catastrophically buries dinosaurs in the Morrison Formation, a 13-state area encompassing over 700,000 square miles. This Jurassic unit includes at least 141 massive dinosaur boneyards where dinosaurs like Camarasaurus, Diplodocus, Apatosaurus, Stegosaurus, and Allosaurus are found. The Cretaceous layers, like the Hill Creek Formation, are found on top of the Jurassic and hold hundreds of mass boneyards containing several different types of dinosaurs, such as T-Rex, Triceratops, Centrosaurus, and Edmontosaurus that had been living in a different ecosystem, also buried by the Zuni. The Zuni was so massive and fast that it engulfed entire regions with mudflow, burying giant creatures like this T-Rex under 50 feet of muddy sediment, entombed so quickly that preserved blood cells, blood vessels, and bone cells were found just recently. How much water does it take to pile 50 feet of mud on top of a dinosaur? The Dinosaur National Monument in Utah contains thousands of visible bones from 11 kinds of dinosaurs that were buried in a jumbled mass in the Morrison Formation, together with crocodiles, turtles, lizards, frogs, and clams. What type of event would it take to bury all these different land animals with millions of clams? When the Dinosaur Peninsula floods over completely, large herds of dinosaurs are entombed in massive fossil graveyards in the Upper Cretaceous system found in northern Wyoming, Montana, and Alberta, Canada. The dinosaurs had tried to escape by fleeing northward up the peninsula as waters advanced from the south. This explains this massive graveyard in northern Montana that's over 1.2 miles long and contains 30 million fossil fragments, representing over 10,000 adult Maiasaura that were simultaneously buried. In this entire collection of bones, not a single baby was found. Every one of these 10,000 Maiasaura was between 9 and 23 feet long. Does this seem like the adult dinosaurs were stampeding away from the raging floodwaters, with 100% of their young falling behind and being engulfed in a different part of the peninsula? Just 170 miles northeast of this location is one of the largest dinosaur graveyards in the world, one that even secular scientists admit was caused by a watery catastrophe. Here, thousands of centrosaurs are buried in 14 mega bone beds over an entire square mile, which is nearly 500 football fields. Looks like a massive herd of these creatures, thousands of them, were simultaneously buried in mud by Noah's flood. Just 45 miles west from this location is yet another massive flood deposit, and this one even has 49 different species of dinosaurs, buried along with turtles, crocodiles, fish, flying reptiles, birds, and small mammals. What type of disaster could bury nearly 50 species of dinosaurs? Stretches for 80 acres, with over 1 million bones buried in a graded, sorted bed, where big bones are found at the bottom and little bones on top. The only way to develop a graded bed like this is by a catastrophic process that transports these bones and deposits them during a single event. Large flying creatures like pterosaurs were able to fly to escape the rising floodwaters, delaying their demise until the later stages of the flood. The fossil record shows they are buried in many different layers all over the world. There's no doubt that widespread volcanism was also involved in finishing off the dinosaurs, as many of these mass graves are literally packed with volcanic ash, ash that in many cases was mixed with water when it replaced the dinosaurs in their tombs. One section of the Morrison Formation, called the Brushy Basin Member, spreads across 5 states and includes over 4,000 cubic miles of volcanic materials. Without a single volcano in the Morrison Formation, geologists believe rising from the subducting ocean crusts plunging under the land. Today, these subduction zones form the ring of fire, responsible for over 90% of our earthquakes.
So, trivia question. How many active volcanoes are there in the world today? What would you guess?
150?
150. One. 1,000.
6.
6. So that tells you these animals die during this kind of activity. What activity would that be? It's exactly what's described in the model. And we'll just kind of wrap this or get closer here now to closing this up. So let's listen to a little bit more about this.
150th day of the flood, God made a wind to pass over the earth. The waters started to recede. The fountains of the deep and the windows of heaven were stopped, and the rain from heaven was restrained. Now enters the final mega sequence, the Tejas. Here, after the water peaked over the top of the highest remnant of the pre-flood world, it began to rush off the continents, eroding and reworking some of the deposits laid down in the previous mega sequences, especially carving away at the Zuni deposits. This final sequence appears to have been different than the others because there was a reversal in flow direction as the waters began to sheet off the continents. This flow reversal transported much of the fossils deposited earlier off the highest uplands, spreading them towards the edges of the continent. The evidence points to the Tejas draining the floodwaters southward pattern all at once. This is why we find massive sand deposits in the deep water of the Gulf of Mexico. Billions of barrels of oil have been discovered there, with much of it found within a massive 1,100-foot thick bed of pure sand in over 7,000 feet of water, over 200 miles offshore. In addition, plants swept off the pre-flood lands formed massive coal beds, such as in the Powder River Basin of Wyoming and Montana. These Tejas layers contain the percent of coal in the U.S. Some of these stacked coal beds are up to 200 feet thick and cover areas that are 60 miles long by 60 miles wide. The sheer volume of plant material required to